Hello, my name is Calvin Vaughn. Today I'll be talking on behalf of the United States government in regards to the proposed border wall along the US and Mexico border. A nation is not a nation without a strong and definite border with its neighboring countries. An international border that does not serve its purpose, which is to be a dividing mechanism, can have catastrophic implications on not only the region where the border is located, but also the nation as a whole and its identity. The US-Mexico border is a prime example of this. An open border means an influx of crime and drug trafficking, as well as a large number of individuals present in the country that effectively lower wages and take jobs from those who have a right and privilege to be called an American citizen. The government ultimately has its obligation to the citizens to uphold the law of the land, and this includes the issue of illegal immigration. This obligation is solidified under the Immigration and Nationality Act, as well as Section 1325 in Title 8 of the United States Code, the section titled Improper Entry of Alien. Under these provisions, the following laws of the land have been specified. Illegal immigration refers to the act of foreign nationals violating American immigration policies and laws through the entering or remaining in the country without receiving proper authorization from the federal government. You may be termed an illegal immigrant in one of the following three ways: border crossing card violations, overstaying your visa, and illegally entering the United States. Ultimately, the US-Mexico border is the most common access point for illegal immigration. This method of illegal entry accounts for roughly 6.5 million illegal immigrant statuses in the United States. The sole purpose of the US-Mexico border wall is to block the flow of illegal aliens into the country. History has proven that the presence of the border enforcement agents alone cannot mitigate this issue. And as previously iterated, a strong and formidable border is necessary for the government to fulfill its role. And this will be achieved only through the presence of a big, beautiful border wall. The vision of America, since its conception, has been the American dream. The ability to live a life of liberty and freedom characterized by the opportunity to move up within society. The proposed border wall project is necessary to uphold the American dream. American citizens deserve the right to reside in a society where justice and the rule of law govern, where economic prosperity is abundant. As iterated previously, the presence of illegal labor reduces the workforce of American citizens by approximately 8 million workers. The American dream also means the ability to live and reside in a safe environment. Illegal immigrants account for about 15% of US crime, 12% of all murder sentences, 20% of all kidnapping sentences, 16% of all drug-related criminal sentences. This is simply unacceptable. This is a problem that has the ability to be stopped, and starts with a secure border and a wall. Recently, the United Nations convened for an international migration convention. Ultimately, the consensus of the conference was as follows: to focus on the protection of migrant workers and their families. This includes basic freedoms of due process and the right to information. Ultimately, the main point emanating from this conference was to prevent and eliminate clandestine movements and trafficking in migrant workers, while at the same time assuring the protection of their fundamental rights. With the cooperation of the Immigration and Customs Enforcement Agency, otherwise known as ICE, these international goals set by the United Nations will be met by the presence of a strong border wall. In closing, some may call it mendacious rhetoric, but the border wall project will enable the government to uphold its duties to the American people and ultimately preserve the American dream. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Kyle Springer, and I have been sent here on behalf of the local communities who have been destroyed by the crisis of illegal immigration coming into our country. These illegal aliens are sneaking into our land uninvited, stealing jobs from hard-working Americans and committing unspeakable acts on our citizens. This behavior cannot be tolerated and is why we, the communities in close proximity to the border, are strongly supportive of the construction of this wall. The percentage of crimes committed by illegal aliens compared to the percentage of the population that they take up vastly outweighs any other major group of people. Let me give you a statistic to give you a sense of scale. The Texas Department of Public Safety recorded that in a time span of 2008 to 2014, illegals accounted for 35% of all murder convictions in that state of Texas. And yet, they only take up 14% of the total population. It is heartbreaking as a member of this community to see a problem which could easily be solved by making sure that they are not able to get into our country in the first place. In addition, it is also extremely costly to incarcerate these people. The average cost per person to house an inmate is approximately $30,000. What's worse is we are spending all this money to house people who are not even from this country, when instead we could be putting that money to use in the community. This is just one of the very important reasons the wall must be constructed. Next issue I want to talk about is jobs. Illegal immigrants are coming here and stealing jobs from hardworking Americans. Employers know that they can exploit the system by hiring illegal immigrants for much less than they would pay the American worker. And they know that the illegal alien can't snitch on them to Uncle Sam, because if they do that, they will be deported back to their country. The PEW Hispanic Center estimates that the number of illegal immigrants in the workforce to be about 8 million people. That is 8 million jobs that have been stolen from American workers. This is why the wall along the Mexican border must be built. I cannot stand by while my friends and family in the community are having their homes foreclosed on because they have been put out of work by illegal immigrants coming here and offering to do their job for much less than them. It is not fair and it must stop. We are not opposed to immigration. We are strongly supportive of immigration if they come here legally. What we are opposed to is illegal immigrants coming here to our country and taking advantage of the system to put our workers out of work and not having respect for our laws. That is why we recommend that this wall must be built along the entire US border, US-Mexico border, in order to stop these things from happening and make America great again.
Greetings, everyone. I'm a consultant and engineer working on the pre-feasibility study of the US-Mexico border wall. As mentioned, much of this project is still in the conceptual stages, but I'll try to be as in-depth as possible. Concerning the wall itself, the BBC reports one popular proposal to create this wall is using precast concrete slabs. These slabs are about 30 feet tall and would be driven 10 feet into the ground. Precast concrete is favored due to issues setting concrete in the hot climates found in the California and New Mexico deserts, as they may not cure properly. These slabs would need to be transported by truck to the job site. As well, these concrete slabs would need to be supported by metal poles driven into the ground. This design of using precast concrete slabs is similar to what's being used in the Israeli West Bank wall. This has been taken from the Bernstein research paper on a proposed US-Mexico border wall. This wall would span about 1,000 miles and require about 9.1 million meters cubed of concrete. This amount of concrete is about 3 times the amount of concrete used in the Hoover Dam, which is quite substantial. However, additional aggregates would be needed to construct support roads, to conduct maintenance and surveillance duties, as well as border enforcement duties along the new constructed wall. According to industry partners at IFSEC Global, a security trade show, an alternate design to the concrete wall would be using a digital wall. This wall would use motion sensors and drones to track border movement along the border. This may incur lower capital costs depending on what systems used. However, the effectiveness of these systems are completely dependent on response times from border agents, and this can be difficult to enforce in very remote areas. One huge negative of this wall can be found in the paper called The Environmental Impacts of the Border Wall Between Texas and Mexico, written by two University of Texas School of Law professors. Overall, the design for a physical barrier would pass through various protected areas, such as the Sabal Palm Audubon Center, which are home to a vast array of wildlife and plant diversity, as well as threatened and endangered species. Since 1979, the US and Mexico have entered agreements to create wildlife passages for these animals. The proposed wall would fragment about 500 acres of this land, of which 400 acres serve as wildlife habitat. Some of the most noticeable issues include increased road mortality rate along access and patrol roads, loss of habitat, cover, and connectivity, altered wildlife behavior, and range during high-intensity construction and operation activities. In addition, the proposed wall would also need to be artificially lit, causing huge problems for migratory birds who may crash into the wall due to the confusion caused by the lights. Finally, about 5.6 billion kilograms of CO2 would be emitted from the concrete production alone used in this project, which is the rest of this wall is divided by many natural barriers, including the Rio Grande. Near the U.S. border and U.S.-Mexico border, Cal Portland and Cemex have created a strong local presence in cement and concrete facilities, which would be suitable for construction of this wall. In addition, according to Burstein, there exists ample aggregate suppliers on both sides of the border, well within 100 miles of it.
Hello, my name is Will Priestner, and I'm representing the responsible investor. The Trump Wall, if approved, would be the largest construction project the United States has ever attempted. A project of this magnitude would without a doubt affect all construction and manufacturing companies involved. Trump has proposed that the wall would be built by Mexico, but the Mexican government has proved less than willing to accept on such terms. If the production of material and construction contracting occurs on United States soil, those involved could see a considerable increase in revenue over the life of construction. The United States border stretches nearly 2,000 miles across vastly different terrain, approximately half of which is not traversable land, where a wall is both unnecessary and impossible to build. That means that roughly 1,000 miles of wall will be needed to construct a complete border protection. Currently, Israel is in the process of constructing the West Bank barrier, which features some sections of wall that would most likely resemble the plans of Trump. These walls, at about 30 feet in height, were built with precast slabs of concrete, which are further supported by steel rebar. Distinct dimensions are not set in stone, but many sources believe that the wall will be 40 feet tall, with an extra 7 feet of burial to deter digging, and have a thickness of about 1 foot. Given these figures, this translates to about 17 million tons of concrete to construct the wall. Assuming industry-accepted principles, the concrete will require about 2.5 million tons of cement. At current market values, the expected cost of cement is $240 million. This value would represent a 1% increase in the current cement demand in the United States. 1% increase seems rather insignificant. However, considering that it is not feasible to transport large slabs of concrete more than 200 miles, the production of the cement must come with less than 200 miles from the wall. Within this radius, there exists enough cement plants and concrete mixing plants to meet the increased demand, so no other plants must be created. So, with little to no cost to expand infrastructure, this small area in the southern parts of California, Texas, Arizona, and New Mexico will experience a gargantuan increase in production, and cement companies operating in the region will experience unprecedented growth. United States-based steel companies will also benefit from the production of the wall. However, the increase will come nationwide rather than companies based in close proximity. This is because steel is much easier to transport and can be feasibly sourced from all over the United States. It can be estimated that $680 million worth of steel will be used in production, which represents 5% of the steel production in the United States. Assuming all steel is produced within the United States, 5% increase will result in a great deal of manufacturing jobs created. All companies associated with the production of the wall will ultimately benefit from the estimated $20 billion production costs. It is unknown how long the production on the wall of this magnitude would take, but considering production is going into its 17th year of the West Bank barrier means it could take a while. We will assume that it will take Trump 10 years to finish this project, so general contractors, along with construction equipment manufacturers like Caterpillar, will receive a split of $2 billion in revenue each year. This will ultimately reflect positively in the stocks of publicly traded companies involved, which will undoubtedly prove to be intelligent adds to anybody's investment portfolio. Every project, especially those of immense magnitude, has risks. For example, construction projects are notorious for running over time and over budget. That being said, the production of the wall offers many investment opportunities that are guaranteed to be successful. The project is a stretch, but it is not outside the realm of possibility.
Hi, my name is Fai, and I'm a member of the project evaluations group for the Trump Wall, aka the Mexican and US border wall. Here I'm to offer you my evaluation on the impact which the 2,000-mile wall will have on the wildlife in the area. I'm a member of the Wildlife Refugees group located in Santa Ana in southern Texas. It is bordering Mexico. Our mission is to work with others to conserve, protect, and enhance wildlife, fish life, and plants in their habitats for the continuing benefits of the American people. In 2007, President Bush and the US government and Congress has approved and signed in the Secure Fence Act, which allocates and allows a $2.2 billion budget for building a wall in 5 sections along the 2,000-mile border. And this will be largely about 700 miles. However, it was largely unbuilt due to the lack of funding. Despite its lack of funding, the wall was already built in certain parts of the country, which really affected the population and the propagation of some of the animals and plants in the area. Since presidential candidate Donald Trump's campaign promise is to build a 10 to 20 meter solid concrete wall along the border, it will have an even bigger impact on the surrounding ecosystems. Some of the animals that will be impacted due to the need to migrate are javelinas, ocelots, and sulfur pronghorns. It also prevents jaguars from repopulating the area, and also, all in all, 20 endangered threatened species live on the US southern border, according to the Center for Biodiversity published on the Oxford Journal for Bioscience. It will significantly impede the landscape permeability. According to Science Environment Journal report on BBC, a similar wall was also put up in Australia in the eastern side, southeastern side, which was about 3,000 miles. It was to keep out wild dogs from attacking sheep. It succeeded in doing so, however, spared the kangaroos from being attacked by dingoes in the area, which then spurred a massive increase in their numbers. This then resulted in more competition with the sheep because they both require pasture. Bottom line is, it is actually very hard to predict the kind of environmental impact and assess it in a way to figure out what kind of impact this physical barrier will have in the local ecosystems. However, it will definitely have some, that is for sure. It is recommended that if a wall is built, it must be built with the requirements and the needs of the animals and wildlife in mind. These propagation requirements means to be considered, and extra funding must be allocated to preservation and funding of local conservation groups to minimize the effects of this physical barrier. Thank you very much.